The IG Nano DP Profisi. Commander Ilara Voss stared at the holographic display as the ancient symbols rotated before her eyes, their meaning still largely undeciphered despite 6 months of the most advanced AI translation protocols Earth Alliance had to offer. The excavation site on Proxima Centauri had yielded what many scientists were calling the archaeological discovery of the millennium. A data cache left by an unknown species that had vanished over 50,000 years ago. "Play it again," she ordered, brushing a strand of copper hair from her face. The symbols shifted, rearranging into what linguists had determined was some form of cautionary message. The AI's monotone voice recited the partial translation. "The darkness between must remain sealed. They hunger for light. 17 civilizations before. Extinction inevitable if barrier breached." Lieutenant Commander Takumi Ishida frowned beside her. "Same cryptic warnings. Command thinks it's just religious nonsense. Primitive aliens afraid of deep space." Ilara shook her head. "These weren't primitives, Takumi. Their technology was at least on par with ours, maybe centuries beyond. Look at the quantum entanglement in this data storage system. We can barely replicate it. That's exactly why Helix Corp is pushing to expand exploration into the prohibited sectors. The tech we could salvage. Is that all you people ever think about?" Ilara snapped. "Salvage. Profit. There's a reason 17 civilizations left the same morning. 17 advanced species, all gone." Takumi sighed. "Look, I get your concerns, but Earth Alliance Council made their decision last week. We're moving forward with the Deep Space Initiative. The Prometheus fleet launches next month to begin surveys in Sector Omega 11. Ilara turned away from the display, her jaw tight. Humanity's golden age of expansion had made them arrogant, convinced of their technological supremacy. 300 colonies across 64 star systems, quantum fold drives that bent spacetime, neural interfaces that merged mind and machine. Humanity believed itself unstoppable. Yet here was evidence that civilizations potentially far more advanced had been extinguished, and still the Alliance Council, dominated by corporate interests like Helix Corp and military hardliners, dismissed the warnings as primitive superstition. "We're making a mistake," she said quietly. 3 weeks later, the scout ship HSV Magellan disappeared in Sector Omega 11, along with its crew of 23. The official report cited equipment malfunction. Ilara knew better. She stood in Director Edayemi's office, tablet in hand, pointing to the sensor readings. "Look at these anomalies right before contact was lost. The quantum field distortions are unlike anything in our database." Director Adayemi, a tall, imposing woman with thick braids streaked with silver, regarded Ilara with thinning patience. "Commander Voss, I understand your passion for the Proxima translations, but you're overreaching. The Magellan's drive core failed. These readings are consistent with quantum field collapse during catastrophic engine failure." "With respect, Director, they're not. I've run 15 simulations. This signature suggests some kind of breach in the fabric of spacetime itself." Adeyemi's eyes narrowed. "Enough. The Prometheus fleet launches in 5 days. This conversation is over." Ilara left the office with her fists clenched, the determination hardening in her chest. If the Alliance wouldn't listen, she would have to take matters into her own hands. The resistance movement started small, just Ilara, Takumi, who had finally begun to share her concerns after the Magellan incident, and Dr. Maya Chen, the civilian sinolinguist who had made the most progress on the translations. They called themselves the Cassandras, after the mythological figure cursed to speak true prophecies that no one believed. Their first breakthrough came when Dr. Chen discovered a correlation between the ancient symbols and astronomical coordinates. "They're star maps," Maya explained, her eyes bright with the thrill of discovery. "Not just any stars. These are the locations of the 17 extinct civilizations mentioned in the warnings." Ilara stared at the holographic display, a chill running down her spine as the dots connected into a pattern that formed a perfect circle around Sector Omega 11 and the adjacent regions. They were containing something, she whispered. A perimeter. 3 months after the Prometheus fleet's departure, the first reports came in. Not through official channels. Those had gone mysteriously silent, but through Takumi's contacts in fleet communications. The messages were fragmented, distorted, but undeniably terrifying. Reality distortion, crew transforming, physics breaking down. They're coming through. By then, the Cassandras had grown. Over 200 Alliance personnel and civilians now secretly worked to decipher the warnings and prepare for what was coming. They had established a hidden base on Europa, Jupiter's moon, far from the watching eyes of Earth Alliance. It was there that Dr. Chen finally completed the full translation of the alien message. The Cassandras gathered in the makeshift command center as the ancient words echoed through the chamber in the AI's unsettlingly calm voice. To those who find this warning, heed our final words. We were the Axiom, the 17th civilization to face the hunger between. We did not listen to those who came before us. We breached the dimensional barriers in our arrogance, seeking knowledge and power. What we found cannot be described in language. Entities that exist outside comprehension, beings to whom the laws of physics are suggestions. They feed on reality itself, consuming light, matter, even time. 17 civilizations united to seal the breach, to create a barrier between dimensions. We sacrificed our homeworlds, our people, our very existence to contain what we had unleashed. The prohibited sectors marked on the attached star charts must remain untouched. The barrier weakens with each passing millennium. If breached again, extinction is inevitable. The hunger between will consume all. Silence fell across the room. Ilara closed her eyes, the weight of the truth settling over her like a shroud. We tried to warn them, she said finally, her voice hollow. The first colony to go dark was Proxima Centauri itself, a poetic irony that wasn't lost on Ilara. The transmissions stopped without warning. The emergency beacons never activated. When Alliance sent a rescue team, they found the colony intact but empty. 8,000 colonists vanished without a trace. Then New Terra fell silent. Then Epsilon Eridani. One by one, the outer colonies went dark, always in a pattern moving inward, toward the heart of human space. The Alliance Council finally began to listen. But it was too late. The Prometheus fleet, or what remained of it, returned to Earth space. The ships appeared intact on scanners, but when boarding parties were sent to investigate, they found horrors beyond comprehension. Crew members fused into the ship's architecture, reality twisted into impossible geometries, and whispers that drove the boarding teams to madness. 6 months after the Magellan disappeared, Ilara stood before the full Alliance Council, no longer as a concerned officer, but as the leader of what had become humanity's last hope. The entities are drawn to advanced technology, particularly quantum communications and fold drives, she explained, her voice steady despite the exhaustion evident in the dark circles under her eyes. Every time we use these systems, we weaken the dimensional barriers further. Admiral Joe, the highest-ranking military official present, leaned forward. What you're suggesting is the complete technological regression of human civilization, Commander. Return to sublight travel, isolation of colonies. It would end the Alliance. It would save our species. Ilara countered. The Axiom left us more than warnings. They left plans for a containment system, technology that could repair the dimensional barriers. The council chamber doors burst open as an aide rushed in, face pale with terror. Earth Defense Command reports multiple anomalies appearing in low orbit. They're not responding to any communications protocols. The holographic displays around the chamber flickered, distorted images appearing on every screen, impossible geometries, structures that seemed to fold into themselves, entities that hurt the mind to look upon. Admiral Joe stood abruptly. Planetary Defense Protocol Omega. Get the evacuation ships. The lights failed. In the emergency red glow that followed, Ilara saw the fear on every face. Humanity had ignored the warnings until it was too late. The hubris of an entire civilization was about to exact its price. As chaos erupted in the council chamber, Ilara's comm unit buzzed. It was Takumi. "We got it working." His voice crackled through the static. "The Axiom device. It won't save Earth, but it might seal the breach if we can get close enough." Ilara looked around at the panicking council members, at the representatives of a civilization that had dismissed the warnings of 17 extinct species before them. "I'm on my way," she said, slipping out as reality itself began to warp around the edges of the chamber. The final stand would not be fought with weapons, but with the very technology humanity had been too arrogant to heed until extinction loomed before them. And as Ilara raced toward the landing pad, the skies above began to darken with something worse than storm clouds. The hunger between had come to feast on yet another civilization that had refused to listen to the warnings of the dead. The PRIC of DFINC. The shuttle bucked violently as Ilara piloted it through Earth's increasingly unstable atmosphere. What had been a clear sky minutes ago now churned with colors that shouldn't exist. Purples that burned the eye, greens that seemed to scream, and a darkness that wasn't merely the absence of light, but something hungry and alive. "Status report," she demanded, fighting the controls as the craft shuddered through another reality tremor. "Dr. Maya," Chen's voice came through the comms, tight with tension. "Nova Station is still holding, but we're detecting dimensional fractures throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moons are. There's no other way to describe it. They're unraveling." Below, the sprawling metropolis of New Geneva was transforming. Buildings stretched like taffy, streets folded into impossible angles, and the people. Ilara forced herself to look away from what was happening to the people. Some were simply gone, blinked out of existence. Others had become something else entirely, their bodies reshaping according to laws of physics that no human mind was meant to comprehend. Humanity's greatest cities, technological marvels that had stood as testaments to human ingenuity, were now being unmade by forces they had arrogantly dismissed as primitive superstition. "The Axiom device," Ilara said, correcting course as navigation systems failed around her. "Is it operational? Takumi has it powered up, but we don't fully understand the targeting mechanism. The translation suggests it needs to be deployed at the exact point where the breach is strongest." "Which is?" A pause. Then, "The Prometheus Fleet Command Ship. Whatever they encountered out there, they brought it back with them." Ilara's jaw tightened. The HSV Prometheus, pride of the Earth Alliance, had returned from Sector Omega-11 2 days ago, despite all attempts by the Cassandras to warn the Alliance about what might come back with it. Admiral Zhao had personally overseen the hero's welcome, broadcasting the successful mission across all colonies. Now it orbited Earth like a splinter in reality's skin, leaking interdimensional horrors into the universe. "Prepare the device for transfer," Ilara ordered. "I'm going to dock with Nova Station, and then head for the Prometheus." "Ilara, that's suicide," Maya protested. "The readings we're getting from the Prometheus. It's not even fully in our dimension anymore." "Then I'll be making this trip alone," Ilara replied, her voice leaving no room for argument. "Have the device ready." Nova Station hung in Earth orbit like a last bastion of sanity in a universe going mad. Originally designed as a civilian research platform, it had become the headquarters of the Cassandras in the final days. The docking procedure took 3 attempts, the station's geometry shifting subtly as reality distortions intensified. When Ilara finally stepped through the airlock, Takumi was waiting. The once pristine uniform of the Earth Alliance now hung loosely on his frame, his face gaunt from weeks of sleepless nights. "It's getting worse by the hour," he said without preamble, leading her through corridors crowded with refugees, the few hundred who had heeded the Cassandra's warnings and evacuated before Earth's communications went dark. "The quantum entanglement network collapsed 20 minutes ago. We've lost contact with all colonies beyond Mars." "And Mars itself." Takumi's silence was answer enough. The Axiom device waited in what had once been the station's main laboratory. It didn't look like much, a spherical object roughly the size of a basketball, covered in the same symbols they had found in the alien data cache. Its surface swirled with a metallic liquid that seemed to move of its own accord. Dr. Chen stood beside it, dark circles under her eyes, a tablet in her trembling hands. "The translation of the operation protocols is complete," she said. "But Ilara, you need to understand what this device does. It doesn't just seal the breach, it creates a quarantine zone. Anything inside that zone, when it activates, will be cut off from our universe permanently, including Earth," Ilara said quietly, the realization sinking in. It wasn't a rescue mission. It was containment. Maya nodded, tears in her eyes. "We can save what's left of humanity, the outer colonies that haven't been reached yet, but Earth, Mars, everything in the inner system, it's already too late." Ilara placed a hand on the device, feeling a strange vibration beneath her fingers, as if the object recognized her touch. "How do I activate it?" "It requires a living mind to direct the containment field," Maya explained. "The user becomes part of the sealing mechanism. The Axiom's records indicate this is why they were able to trap these entities before. 17 civilizations, 17 sentient beings who sacrificed themselves to create the barrier. And now it's our turn," Ilara said, a strange calm settling over her. "Humanity's contribution to the barrier." Takumi stepped forward. "I should go. I was the one who initially dismissed your concerns." "No," Ilara cut him off. "You both need to lead what's left of our people. Find a way to warn the outer colonies to shut down their quantum technology. Return to simpler methods. Rebuild, but differently this time, with humility." Outside the station viewports, Earth was changing. Continents shifted like puzzle pieces being rearranged by a child's hand. The oceans no longer reflected blue, but shimmered with that same hungry darkness that had begun consuming the planet hours ago. And around the dying world, reality itself seemed to be thinning, the stars beyond flickering as if viewed through heat waves. The journey to the Prometheus was a descent into madness. Ilara piloted a small maintenance craft, the Axiom device secured beside her, as the laws of physics began to disintegrate around her. Distance became subjective. At one moment the Prometheus seemed light minutes away. The next it loomed directly ahead, its massive hull twisted into configurations that hurt to look at. What had once been the pride of human engineering now resembled a wound in space, a jagged tear through which something ancient and hungry was forcing its way. Her craft's systems failed one by one as she approached. First communications, then navigation, finally life support. The temperature plummeted as she neared the ship, frost crawling across her viewport even as sweat beaded on her forehead from a heat that seemed to come from inside her own mind. The docking procedure was pure instinct. Ilara could no longer trust her instruments, could barely trust her own eyes as the Prometheus's hangar bay stretched and contracted like something breathing. Inside, the ship was both empty and crowded. Ilara moved through corridors where gravity shifted randomly, where walls became floors and ceilings opened into voids filled with geometries that shouldn't exist. And everywhere, whispers, not sound, but thoughts that weren't her own, ancient hungers pressing against her consciousness. Sometimes she glimpsed what might have been the Prometheus's crew, figures that moved in ways humans shouldn't move, their forms blurring at the edges as if they were being erased from reality itself. The bridge, when she finally reached it, was the epicenter of the horror. Here, the breach was visible, a tear in reality that resembled a black mirror, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Through it, Ilara caught glimpses of something vast and incomprehensible, entities older than stars, hungrier than black holes, patient beyond human understanding. In front of the breach, still seated in the captain's chair, was what remained of Admiral Joe. His body was there, but his eyes reflected that same darkness, that same hunger. He turned to Ilara, movements jerky like a puppet with tangled strings. "Commander Voss," he said, his voice overlapping with others, a chorus of stolen voices speaking in unison. You should not have come. It's magnificent. What lies beyond? Power, knowledge, evolution, extinction. Ilara corrected, clutching the Axiom device. 17 civilizations before us learned that lesson. Zhao's face, what was left of it, twisted into something like a smile. 17 sacrifices, 17 offerings, and now the 18th, humanity. So arrogant, so certain of your superiority. Did you never wonder why the warnings were left where you would find them? Did you never question whether you were being led here? Ilara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the freezing air. What do you mean? Bait, the thing wearing Zhao's face hissed. Each civilization, each barrier weakened the previous one. Each new species, drawn by warnings they thought would save them, only helped break the seals their predecessors died to create. It stood, moving with fluid grace that no human body should possess. And you've brought the key right to us. The final seal. Ilara looked down at the Axiom device, understanding washing over her. Not a weapon, not salvation, but another piece in a game older than humanity itself. Unless. You're right, she said, mind racing. We were arrogant. We didn't listen. But neither did the Axiom, or the 16 civilizations before them. She stepped toward the breach, the device clutched to her chest. They all tried to fight you individually. They all failed. The thing wearing Zhao's face tilted its head, curious. And you think you will succeed where they failed? No, Ilara said, but I think we can change the rules. In that moment, she understood what the device truly was. Not just a seal, but a bridge. A connection to those who had come before. 17 minds preserved within. 17 civilizations who had each added their knowledge, their sacrifice. As she pressed her palm against the device's surface, she felt them. Alien minds touching hers, incomprehensible yet united in purpose. And she offered them humanity's greatest strength, the one thing that might have saved them if they'd embraced it sooner. Cooperation. Not one civilization standing alone against the hunger, but 18 united. The device activated, liquid metal flowing up her arm, enveloping her body as reality twisted around her. The breach pulsed, hungry darkness reaching for her. For the device, for the final key it had manipulated 18 species to deliver. But this time, the key turned differently. Nova Station's sensors recorded the moment, a pulse of energy unlike anything they had measured before, expanding outward from the Prometheus. The breach collapsed in on itself, taking the ship with it. Then Earth, then Mars, then the entire inner system, folding into a singularity that defied analysis. And in its place, a barrier stronger than any before it. Not 17 separate seals, but one unified defense created from the combined knowledge and sacrifice of 18 species who had finally learned to work together. In Nova Station's command center, Takumi and Maya watched in silence as the reading stabilized. The dimensional distortions were gone. The inner system was lost, but the breach was sealed, permanently this time. She did it, Maya whispered. Takumi nodded, tears streaming down his face. Not just her, all of them. Everything we were too arrogant to learn from. 3 years later, the survivors of humanity, barely 2 million souls scattered across the outer colonies, gathered to commemorate what they now called the sealing. Quantum technology had been abandoned, replaced with simpler methods that wouldn't weaken the dimensional barriers. Cooperation had replaced competition. Humility had replaced hubris. And in the void where Earth had once been, a new kind of star shone, a perfect sphere of light that astronomers couldn't explain with any known physics. Some called it the Eye, others the Guardian. The survivors knew better. It was a reminder. 18 civilizations united in death to protect the universe from horrors beyond comprehension. 18 species who had finally overcome their arrogance, but too late to save themselves. The last message from Commander Ilara Voss, sent moments before the sealing, had become humanity's new ethos, carved into monuments on every remaining colony. The warnings were clear. Our arrogance marched us to extinction. Learn from our fall. Listen to the voices of the dead. And remember, no species survives alone. In the darkness between stars, 18 guardians kept their eternal watch, a barrier forged from sacrifice, and the wisdom that came too late, that the greatest threat to intelligence wasn't the darkness beyond, but the pride within.